Hi guys, it's Kelly from Cards by Christine here with you on a Technique Thursday to share with you the crumpled paper technique. So we've got this beautiful set of cards this is for the upcoming Let's Just Stamp class. And the background on every single one of these cards has this crumpled look. So the beauty of Let's Just Stamp classes is that they feature just stamping. So no die cutting, no embossing. It's kind of geared for the beginner stampers so that they don't need to be overwhelmed by not having a die cutting machine or an embossing machine or all the supplies. But the cards are designed in such a way that they're no less beautiful without those elements. So I'm going to show you how to do this background and give you some tips on how to do that. So our background is, so a traditional mat would be 4 by 5 1/4. But because it's being crumpled, we're going to give a little extra to accommodate that. So we're going to give it 5/16 for the width, and then 4 1/16. So just a little bigger than your traditional mat. And then you can go ahead and, like on this background, you can see that there's a very light stamped texture to it too. And this is actually the owl stamp. So here you see the owl stamp stamped off in crumb cake. So that it's lighter, and it's not really stamped as a whole image. It's kind of just stamped so that you can see some of it, but you can't make out what it's supposed to be, and that's 100% intentional. So if you want to do that, go ahead and stamp to get some more visual texture for your card. This one is just early espresso, so there's nothing stamped on this one. And then this one, what we did was we took a sponge dauber, or you could even take a blending brush, and brought in some crumb cake on top of the Cajun craze to give it another bit of visual texture again. So you can either go plain Jane, you can stamp, or you can use some sponging elements to continue to add some texture to it. Now, you're going to take this mat piece and you're going to crumple it up as tiny as you can. So you want to get it all scrunched down as small as you can so that you get the most definition in your crumple as possible. So give it a nice smush. Get it all nice and pushed down. And then when you open it up, I'm going to give it one more squeeze. When you open it up, it's going to somewhat retain its shape because you did a good job of crumpling it. So then we're going to bring in our bone folder and flatten it down. So that'll help to get it back to its original rectangular shape that then you can glue down. So especially with this crumb cake color, I would definitely bring in a sponge with some ink or have stamped on it. You can stamp before or after. This one actually was done as an afterthought, where it was stamped with that owl after the crumples were in. That also helps because you're not stamping on a flat surface, you're stamping on a ridgy surface, so that helps to lose definition in your stamped image, which typically is not what you want to do. You want to keep that definition so that you have a nice crisp, clean image, but where you're doing it on the background and your whole goal is to not be able to tell what that image is, you definitely can do it as an afterthought. I forgot to grab my sponge, so I'm going to go do that real quick so I can show you how to do that. All right, and actually I don't have my crumb cake accessible, but you know what? We're just adding some texture, so we're using smoky slate, and that will be fine. So just bring some of that ink, lightly tap. Usually when I sponge, I tap in the corner, and then lightly tap and drag, and you can already see how it's highlighting those crumple marks, those creases. And then I just go ahead and drag it over. Usually I do work in circular patterns. Then you won't get streaky lines, especially on a flat surface. That would be more of a big deal than on this wrinkly surface, because your surface isn't flat to begin with, so you won't see those streaky lines. But usually when I sponge, I do work in a circular pattern. And then remember, when doing something like this, you work in layers. So you want to keep it light right off the bat, so that if you want it darker, you have the opportunity to come in with more layers of ink. Once the ink is down, there is no taking it back. So you don't have the opportunity to lighten it up if you change your mind. So usually when you do something like this, I always say to start with a light touch, because you can always add more ink. It is impossible to take the ink away. So that is how we are going to add some definition to our crumpled background. Just a little more here, and let's do the before and after for you. So here you've got the before. There is, I don't want to say no definition, because the wrinkles and the creases give it some definition, but when you flip it over, there's definitely much more definition. And you can see over here, I started with a lighter touch, and then I got heavier with my inking as I went. So I do like this side better with the heavier inking. I would probably go back and ink a little bit more in there for the consistency. But at least I did start with that lighter touch, decided that I liked it more with the darker, and then followed through with the darker on the other side. So very easy, inexpensive way to get some texture on your projects. Don't need to worry about having a die cutting machine. Don't need any embossing supplies. I absolutely love this set of ink, paper, scissors cards. I personally struggle with masculine cards, so these are like, they're a home run. I love them so much. I think it's ingenious how the background is crumpled, that you can get that texture without having any supplies besides stamps and ink. So this one says a note of thanks, and then we've got this for the inside of the card. Love the color scheme. Cajun Craze is a color that I don't use that often. When it comes to fall, I start to use it more, but I really don't use it that often. I love having that having that crumb cake on the crushed curry, and I love this window pane technique over here. Very cool. A little knot in the twine in the middle here. So this is the first card. The second card, I love this layout so incredibly much, and I do love how it shows off a nice chunk. It kind of looks like leather, especially with that early espresso color. Love all of the little pieces and how it's stamped. The edges here on this ribbon is just frayed off, so very, very cool. Sending birthday wishes for on the inside. This one's my all-time favorite. I love this layout so much. And then here is the last one, for all the great things you do, and then a note of thanks. We've got, this is a really cool ribbon technique where you just fold the ribbon over and tie it off with a piece of twine and then fray the edges. So cool. Again, a lot of little layers where you have the different patterns showing through of the DSP, all coordinating DSP, which is really cool. And then just a single layer for your stamped images. I'm so impressed. Chris invented, quote unquote, this Let's Just Stamp class. It's got to be over a year ago. I don't know exactly how long ago. And I'm not designing the cards, so I wasn't too worried about it, but I'm like, wow, that's going to get challenging. Always having different layouts that are simple. I love layering with the different dies, and always using die cuts and embossed images and stuff like that. So that was like a huge challenge to me. And she's just knocked it out of the park. It's next week, Monday, online at 1 p.m. So if you're interested in joining, if you like these cards or love the technique, want to try it yourself, sign up for the class. You won't be disappointed. I absolutely love these cards. And then we have an in-person class here in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin as well that is taught by Diane Bogenhagen. So they together designed these cards, and they knocked my socks off. I saw these a couple of months ago when they designed them, and I was just like giddy with anticipation to be able to share this technique with you and to show off the cards, because they are phenomenal. I love them so much. So I hope you have a wonderful Technique Thursday. Enjoy the daily dose of inspiration, and I hope you have a wonderful Technique Thursday. You can catch Chris later tonight for some live card making, and like I said, join along on Monday at 1 p.m. for the ink, paper, scissors class, and get your kits. So I hope you have a great day, and catch you later.